Morning. It is 21 minutes after 7 o'clock, and joining us in studio this morning from the Walker Aviation Museum, Robert Sherman back with us. Good morning.
Morning, Mike.
How are you doing today?
Good.
Good deal. So, how's life at the museum this morning? I know a lot of times you guys are open during the flying schedule out there. And
Yeah,
starting to see a little more traffic through there.
Monday through Saturday now, from about 7:30 in the morning until a little after 10.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good deal.
Yeah, Bob Donnell's headed out there.
Good deal. So I
this
didn't know if that increased business through the doors of the museum a little bit or not, or.
Yeah, a little bit. We get a few people, if we found between 7:30 and 8. And sometimes the other plane that leaves earlier has been kind of delayed, and some of the people waiting for that to leave, their family are on the plane, they'll come in and look around.
Tick around and kill some time.
So we pick up 3, 4, 5 more visitors. So
good deal.
Good.
Yeah, excellent. Well, if you've never been out there and go, if you want to know when they're open, generally it's right around the American Airlines flight schedule out there, American Eagle flight schedule. So if you really look at the AA.com and see the flight schedule, then you'll see when
all down, don't you?
Yeah, you'll see when the museum's open.
Yeah, just go to AA.com and do the flight status and put in the ROW and DFW.
Yeah. Or, call up to the airport or something. They'll tell you. But
that's the easiest way. You can do that on your phone right quick.
Boop, boop. Just take a quick look. It's like, oh, yeah, they got a flight coming in an hour, but they'll be open about that. So.
Yeah.
But, and of course, for those that aren't familiar, the Walker Aviation Museum is a museum dedicated to, because prior, for folks that have not been here their whole lives or don't know, that end of town, the airport, the college, all that was once a Air Force base.
Right.
First, it was before the days of the Air Force, it was Roswell Army Airfield, and the Army or Air Corps was calling it home. And then once Air Force was established, it was Walker Air Force Base, an Air Force base, and it served a major role in World War II and the Cold War era as well, too.
Right.
So.
Right. It was very key in training pilots and bombardiers.
Yeah.
And when I say training pilots, usually the pilots came in, they were already flying, but they were transitioning into two-engine aircraft or multi-engine aircraft. So they got trained, and then they went from there to B-17s or B-24s. And
gotcha. Stuff. They're officially pilots, but they're not certified on the bigger, heavier aircraft.
Right.
They flew like single engine or more smaller aircraft.
Yeah, I have to apologize to the people who are listening that listened to me last month. I went home and listened to myself to see what my wife wanted to hear what was going on. And I noticed I kept clearing my throat about every 10 seconds. And like, okay, Robert, please back away from the microphone when you clear your throat.
It happens. Don't worry about it.
Okay. Just one of those things.
But folks, if you're never been, check it out.
Yeah.
Highly recommend you do it. They really have some.
There's a couple things we're doing out there. And most people, and I'm not bragging or anything, I'm just saying people come in, and, we don't have airplanes or anything you're walking through, but most people really like what they see. Mm-hmm. And we have some touchscreen computers that you can walk up and touch, and you get a 2-minute history of the Walker Air Force Base or Roswell Army Airfield. Or you get a 2-minute history of the 579th Missile Squadron, the Atlas missile that was stationed here.
Yeah.
And then we have some stuff running, and I'll talk about one of the videos that we really like and most people really kind of enjoy, and we're finding people are coming in and sitting and watching. And matter of fact, we're getting ready to add a small little table in there so they can come in and set something down. If they have a snack they got at the snack bar over there, they can come in and sit down and watch part of this video. I
like that. That's a good idea.
Yeah.
Something.
Try to make it more homey and just kind of come in, relax.
I find it more receptive to comprehending what's in a video when I'm eating a sandwich. It's just it really is. I'm not joking. I kind of pay more attention if I'm eating, but that's probably my own problem. But anyway, and of course, before we kind of get into our little history lesson for today here, I do want to remind folks that if you are looking for a volunteer opportunity, they're always looking for more volunteers.
Absolutely. We're kind of in a personnel crisis right now.
Yeah, to serve in various roles on the board, serve as docents, just helping with general labor, just, helping, storing and preserving and creating displays and things like that. All of that kind of work is needed there for the museum. So if you have some time and love aviation history or military history or just have a knack for liking organizing and things like that, love to have you serve a role as part of the museum here. So,
Yeah.
but go ahead. I'm sorry.
Okay, no, that's right. Our current board members are myself, Allie Bishop's our treasurer, Katie Yates, Sandy Correa, secretary, and Bob Donnell, Juliana Halverson, Judy Armstrong, Jerry Cloffer, Friar Shodek Nowaki, and Stephen Miller. And also we got Ted Smith, our new volunteer at the museum. So
Nice. Good deal.
He's a retired Army lieutenant colonel.
Okay.
And,
Does he know about airplanes?
He knows a lot of stuff.
I'm just kidding.
I know.
I was just
He's
giving
a
a hard
history
time.
buff. Don't get him started, boy. I'll get you. But he's flying out today, matter of fact, going, I think, to visit, I don't know where he's going, San Antonio or eventually, going there, or maybe going down to.
Is he going to go through the museum while he's waiting for his flight out?
Yeah. Yeah, Bob Donnell's picking him up, so he doesn't have to park his car there for 2 weeks or whatever it is. Yeah, so, our mission out there is to educate and inspire all generations concerning the history and the legacy of Walker Air Force Base.
Yeah.
And encourage our youth to explore careers in science, technology, engineering, and math with an emphasis on aviation.
Very good. So so they do it in many ways through and this is something we've talked about several times. If you have youth groups or things like that, you can sign up to book a time at the museum where they can come and explore, and then participate in like the flight simulators and the various other STEM related opportunities that are available through the museum as well too.
Yeah,
so.
And that's another important thing before we get into our little history thing. And for you all out in the audience, this is a good little history thing for Mike, because he worked with loading missiles on F-117.
Our nickname I was a load toad. That was
you were a load toad?
That's our nickname, load toads. But weapons troops, yeah. I loaded bombs and missiles on airplanes.
Load toad.
Yeah,
that's the first time I heard that. Okay,
yeah, they call them toads usually, load toads.
So next time I see you, I know what to call you.
Yeah,
hey,
weapons guys are referred to as load toad. At least they were back when I was in, and many moons. New military. I don't know if that all changes. I have no idea.
We on this program we have with the career development and stuff, we're kind of coordinating and working with the Roswell schools, and we've also coordinated with Dexter and Hegerman as far as the middle school, high schools, but trying to get students from the local middle schools and high schools, and Sidney Gutierrez Charter School, Gateway Schools, all the other private schools around, Assurance Home, Civil Air Patrol, Girl Scouts, Boy Scouts, Youth Challenge, and the Roswell Job Corps. Matter of fact, we were supposed to have a class today and yesterday, but something came up, internal policy, something happened, so they've slipped to the end of August.
Okay, but they'll get in there.
They'll still get in there, and local church groups or anybody out there that, homeschoolers, if you can give us about a week or so advance, we can get some volunteers out there to help with the flight simulator. So.
Yeah, it's a cool opportunity. Definitely something that I think your group and your youth will really, who knows, you might find the next couple pilots in that group when they come out to the museum and get a chance to access the simulator. They might just found their new passion. So,
as a matter of fact, I mentioned last month a really interesting video that's on YouTube we found, and we run it, and we found a lot of people coming in and stopping and watching this. And it's titled The Enola Gay B-29 Superfortress / the bomber that dropped the atomic bomb.
Mm-hmm.
And it's narrated by Gary Sinise.
Okay.
And it's an hour and 28 minutes long. You're thinking, oh my gosh, that's really long. But it addresses the difficult development of the B-29, a short biography of Paul Tibbets, the pilot of, dropped it in Hiroshima bomb, a selection of the atomic bombing crews and the extensive training of the missions leading to Hiroshima. Matter of fact, most people, or some people, are under the misconception that the silver plate B-29s and the planes that dropped the bombs on Nagasaki and Hiroshima came from Roswell Army Airfield and later Walker, but that was not the case. They came out of Wendover, Utah.
Yeah. They've been to this base.
Yeah.
They've parked here and done things here, but they weren't assigned
But
to
after
this
the
base.
war was over, then the mission of Roswell Army Airfield changed from being a training base for bombardiers and pilots to a premier bomber base
Okay.
for the United States. So then those silver plate type, that were silver plate meaning B-29s that were modified to be able to carry the atomic bomb, returned to the Roswell area,
Gotcha.
Roswell Walker Air Force Base.
But at the time they were dropping the bombs, they were not assigned to Roswell.
No,
they were assigned to a combat ready squadron at another base.
Yeah, and it was actually went over Utah, and if you read about that people say, man, that was talking about being in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
They were out there in the desert.
Well, and for folks that understand, like for folks that are like, if you ever live in like Shepherd Air Force, Wichita Falls, Texas, that area, for folks that are familiar, that there's a lot of training bases there. Whereas, a matter of fact, at Shepherd, I think they do a lot of pilot training there. So you'll see a lot of aircraft, but they're not combat aircraft. They're aircraft teaching their pilots to fly the combat aircraft. And I want to say Shepherd in that area, maybe Lackland, or like one of the areas they first start, where they're in the T-38s and T-37s, and I think work their way up to the T-30. At least it was years ago. I don't know what aircraft they fly now, but so those will never see war, but and so Roswell served that role before World War II as a place for the pilots to train to learn how to do their job. So, yeah, you see them flying all over the place, but they're not necessarily combat aircraft. Those are training aircraft. So It's a difference.
And part of our history today, we're going to talk about an obscure that most people don't even know about, or I didn't know much about it, so I thought, well, I've got to learn a little bit about this. We're going to talk about the 58th Fighter Squadron that was assigned to Walker.
And this is post World War II as a combat bomb ready, combat capable, combat ready squadron.
Yeah,
gotcha.
And other things that we'll probably bring up in the future is, for example, the 579th, which is the name of the squadron for the Atlas missiles.
Okay.
In World War II, the 579th were B-24 Liberators.
Okay.
And they flew a lot of missions in the Mediterranean area and other places. So we can talk about that. But then, that was kind of done away with. And then they brought it back up and assigned it to the missiles that came to Walker. But we'll talk about that next time.
Alrighty.
Shall we do the quick little history blip?
Yeah, let's do it. We were kind of leaning that way. Let's keep going with
trying to make us all a little smarter as far as the history of Walker.
Well, this is good water cooler talk for some folks here. Share this. And did you know? I love that's my favorite part of. I love gee whiz information. I made a career out of it. So
okay, this is on the 58th Fighter Squadron.
Okay.
Currently, it is part of the 33rd Fighter Wing at Eglin, and its current mission is a graduate flying and maintenance training wing for the F-35.
Interesting. Okay.
A model, B model, and C model. F-35, for those that don't know, it's our newest fighter aircraft.
Yeah, Eglin is a test base for for most of the stuff they do out of Eglin Air Force Base is test related on the cutting edge type stuff. So a lot of times the early aircrafts, like right now the F-35, they get put through their paces down there in Eglin and do all that stuff before they kind of trickle into the mainstream Air Force.
Yeah. So right now, as we speak, it's organized under the Air Education and Training Command, 19th Air Force.
Okay.
And its mission is to train U.S. Air Force operators and maintenance of the F-35 Lightning, and currently training air crews and maintainers of the U.S. Air Force, U.S. Navy, U.S. Marine Corps, and international air forces that have the F-35.
Oh, cool. Okay.
Okay, prior, the 58th Fighter Squadron was a key player in Desert Storm, flying F-15s out of King Faisal Air Base in Saudi Arabia.
Okay.
And they flew 1,689 combat sorties, destroyed 15 enemy aircraft, including 5 MiG-29s.
Nice.
Which is a high-end.
Yeah, the MiG-29s are kind of the Russian Navy or the Russian military's elite fighter.
Right.
At the time. I think they've got a newer one that's in the works.
Now, so that's what's happening today, and then back in like Desert Storm. But prior to World War II, and this is prior to World War II, the 58th Pursuit Squadron was stationed out of Mitchell Field, New York, and the squadron was charged with the ongoing mission of aerial defense of the United States.
Okay.
And when World War II started, the 58th became active in the invasion of Morocco in November 1942, combat operations in the Mediterranean theater from November 42 to February 44, and in combat operations in the China, Burma, India campaign in April 44 through August 1945. And while in the Mediterranean, they got the nickname of guerrillas. So you see their patches, this big old gorilla, and for their guerrilla warfare-like techniques. And during these operations, they flew the P-40 Warhawk.
Oh, cool.
And also the P-47, and then my favorite airplane, the P-38 Lightning.
Oh, nice.
Twin engine. And then after World War II, the 58th was reactivated as part of a post-war air defense command in June 1948 at Otis Air Force Base in Massachusetts, flying the F-84 Thunderjets, providing air defense over New England. And then they went to the F-86 Sabre and into the F-94. You know, I wasn't too familiar with the F-94 Starfire, but I looked that up, and it made by Lockheed, I think.
Okay.
It was a day-night all-weather interceptor and pretty advanced for its time. Now, okay, In 1960, okay, we had Walker Air Force Base in 1960. It was here from about 1941 to 67.
Mm-hmm.
About 2 years after being upgraded to the F-89D Scorpion from Northrop, the 58th Fighter Squadron was moved to Walker Air Force Base. And it was when it was transferred, that squadron and everything was transferred to the new Albuquerque Air Defense Sector.
Okay.
Okay, and that was based out of Albuquerque.
Okay.
Its new mission being the air defense of the desert Southwest.
Okay.
Along the border of Mexico. So if any bombers were coming around and coming in from the south.
So they served as the alert jets for
Right.
any incursion that way. Gotcha.
So the squadron remained at Walker for 1 year, from about January to December of 1960. Now, at that time, 1960, I was a senior, Roswell High School. Shows how old I am. And they were flying out of Hangar 91.
Okay.
So what they would do is they would be on alert upstairs, and when something would happen, they would come down the stairs. They kind of wish they had fireman poles, but they didn't. So, and they'd come down and they'd open the back door and the front door so that exhaust could go out, and they'd fire up the jet, and they'd just go out of there pretty high speed and right off the runway and take off.
Yeah, they keep and this is still today's military too. Squadrons that have that duty of being the air protection for whatever region each one and this is to this day, they keep jets what are called on alert, and it's depending on their mission, a number of jets that sit on the tarmac or in a flight, in a hangar on a flight line that are completely fueled up, completely loaded up with munitions and everything else. And at a moment's notice, they can fire those jets up, get them airborne, and come to the defense of whatever they're needed to do. And so that's kind of what we're talking about with these jets. That's what their mission was for. So.
Yeah. So they were in locally Hangar 91 until Strategic Air Command assumed full control of the base toward the end of 1960.
Okay.
And now the other side point, and this is you being a missile loader guy.
Yes.
The AIR-2 Genie missile. This was an unguided 9.5-foot long air-to-air missile that they developed, and the Air Force deployed these from 1957 to 1985. So
Okay.
now we're talking 1960, and there are 3,150 of these missiles, and the reason they were kind of interesting to talk about is the warhead on these air-to-air missiles to, a plane, the fighter go up and try to shoot down a bomber.
Mm-hmm.
It had a 1,500-ton TNT equivalent nuclear warhead on it.
Wow. So it really was one of the experimentations of air-to-air nuclear technology, which
it was
kind of
like
rare.
they said, it was in a time when some of the missiles and then machine guns and stuff, they go up and they were attack, say, a formation of Russian bombers coming in to bomb a city in the United States. You just couldn't get them all.
Right.
But if you shot a missile and the detonation of this, when it went off, it would destroy any bomber within 980 feet. So you're talking about a 2,000-foot diameter.
Yeah.
When it went off.
You're looking at
any aircraft in that 2,000-foot diameter.
Basically an airborne mushroom cloud right there.
That's right.
In the sky. Which, by the way, if people noticed what he said earlier, that's why it's unguided, because you don't have to be precision with that. It'll get everything.
That's right.
You just got to get nearby. That's why it's unguided. So it's probably more technically a rocket than a missile, because with usually at least in military terms, usually our missiles have some kind of navigation guidance, whether it's radar or heat guided or whatever it is. But and in rockets, generally you just fire them off and they go straight till they hit something.
And they said initially, these F-89s in 1957, this is before 1960, carried the missiles in northern Michigan and outside of San Francisco.
Okay.
The flight time of the rocket with that small nuclear warhead of 1.5 kilotons had a flight time of 12 seconds long. It traveled 6.2 miles at 3.3 times the speed of sound and then blew up.
Oof.
So the bombers didn't have any chance to evade it. Once it got fired at them, that was it.
Well, I would imagine, too, the guy that launched it needs to get out of Dodge pretty quick, too.
He fired it and he turned.
Yeah.
And get the heck out of Dodge.
Unless you can fire it from 20 miles away and forget about it, but that's usually not the case with rockets or missiles.
So I imagine it was kind of fire and turn.
Right.
But in 1958, 268 F-89s were modified to carry the Genie nuclear anti-aircraft missile. Okay, so the F-89s at Walker in 1960, 2 years later, were kept in Hangar 91 with both doors, closed, and they would launch. And were they carrying Genies? I didn't find anything that said absolutely they were.
Yeah.
But most likely, this being such a key base and the missiles going on around the outside, getting ready to do that, most likely they were carrying the nuclear-tipped missiles.
Yeah, and I know this just from my experience whenever the militaries go nuke with anything, they don't advertise that to nobody. They're not going to let you see it, know about it, or get near it.
It wasn't in Life magazine.
Yeah.
Right.
But even the people on the duty station, they don't even unless you have a need to be there, you will be removed nicely or not so nicely from those areas, depending on the attitude of the cops.
That's true.
But it's interesting. I know this just from my time in military, loading bombs and missiles and everything. Once you get nuke, that's a whole nother world. It's a different animal altogether than when you're just loading your garden variety high explosive munitions and things like that.
That's true. But I know when I was in the Air Force, I was stationed at Beale with the SR-71 and U-2, and William Phillips was a friend of mine. And if you can actually look him up, he's an official Air Force artist, and he paints a lot of stuff. But he was visiting Beale, so I was given the opportunity to take him around, show him around. So we were out walking around near the SR-71, and apparently we walked in the wrong direction at the wrong time. So both of us ended up laying face down on the concrete with our heads and arms and legs spread out, with a young guy with an M16 standing over us saying, "What are you doing out here?" That type of thing. Yeah. So anyway, we got out of that situation. he always still laughs at that, like, "Oh, thanks, Bob, for introducing me to the."
I always wondered what the concrete here tastes like.
It's kind of hard to see the plane when I'm laying face down on the concrete.
I'm going to get the low perspective.
Yeah.
But it's a different world, though. It really is, and you almost can't. It's hard to wrap your head around it till you've been there and seen what it is. And to be honest, it makes sense once you know what's going on.
Right.
It's you just don't.
And that's why a lot of people don't understand the history of Roswell during that time frame when the missiles were. You had all these really super powerful warheads surrounding Roswell. Mm-hmm. You had bombers that were loaded up on alert with atomic weapons. And then you probably had an F-89 for air, defense with nuclear-tipped missiles on them. Mm-hmm. So Roswell was a pretty, interesting
tip of the
place.
Spear type facility at the
right,
time during that 60s and 50s era there.
And that's why you find a lot of people, even around town, that have they leave their home and they find out they had an underground bunker,
fallout shelter or whatever. Yeah.
like my mom and dad.
Mm-hmm.
They lived at 3202 West 8th. And in that double garage, pull off the plywood, and there's
Yeah.
about a 10-foot hole that goes down with a little room underneath my dad had dug in there. But, you had Goddard being built in 67.
That's right. That's a bomb
underground.
shelter. Yeah.
So it's just...
My high school was one of those, too,
so
in
this
Maryland.
was really at the tip of the spear. It was kind of a scary place, and some people might say, maybe we won't live in Roswell.
Yeah.
You didn't have to, no.
Well, in Artesia, is it Oso School or whatever it is there in Artesia? It's all underground there. That was the reason why it's all underground for nuke stuff, for the Cold War era stuff. Yeah.
So that's part of the history of Walker.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. I love that. And I love the fact that, people don't realize when you tell them, it's like, no. This was a mission ready, after the World War II stuff there, that Cold War, post World War II. At a moment's notice, some of those bombers may have had to go and fight World War III. They were ready at a moment's notice for that kind of thing, and it's a when they're constantly training and getting ready for that.
Those planes flew, those missions that had bombs on them and just flew circles, up in Canada and north of Alaska.
Just doing their
just up there so that
patrolling.
something happened, they could just make a turn and head out toward the Soviet Union.
Yeah, you'd be amazed at how quick they can mobilize stuff like that. I mean, of course, in the world we live in today, everything's interconnect. They can do the ICBM stuff, and I mean the Atlases and all those were that. But even now, the technology, we didn't have the technology in the 50s where you could take a submarine and park it off someone's shore and then launch pretty much a nuclear battalion at them. That's real now and very much part of it today. But it's kind of neat just when you look at the history of some of this stuff.
Yeah. Before we get too far along, I need to make sure we thank people like Roswell Toyota, XL Energy, got us that grant for those flight simulators, Pioneer Bank, Featherstone Development, and other doctors, Phil, Kathy, and Paul Engstrom, and other folks, Glenn Furniture, Aerocell, and Six Bomb Wing Reunion Group is sending us some money.
Oh, that's nice.
So anyway, that's kind of thank you for keeping our doors open.
Yeah, those guys, all those businesses and organizations, without their support, the museum would not even be around today. So we are very appreciative of those support, those individuals and organizations.
Can I go through the scenario of kind of what when students come to visit us real quickly?
Sure.
Yeah. So if you come out and for a tour, we usually take 8 people because we only have 2 flight simulators, 8 people for about 2.5 hours, and we need about a week's advance. But once they get there, we give them a quick history of Walker and the Atlas missile, and that lasts for about 15 minutes or so. And then we break them up into 2 groups of 4, and then 4 of them go over to the 2 flight simulators where 2 of our staff will help guide them through aircraft taxiing, takeoff, and some other flight scenario stuff. So that lasts about 45 minutes or so. So each student gets about 25 minutes of flight time.
Okay.
And then the other 4 students are set in front of a large computer and through YouTube. And we got it set up so there's no commercials or anything, but they get these 3 to 7 minute videos starting out with how to, developing a Venn diagram on no regrets, how to choose a college major or, a lifetime career.
Okay.
Then when science, technology, and engineering math overview, careers in aviation, Eastern New Mexico University of Roswell maintenance aircraft or aviation maintenance technician program, a day in the life of a wind turbine engineer, Crumlin Auto Group, Eastern New Mexico University of Roswell auto mechanic program, energy careers and career cluster and industry video series, the oil well workers career video, what does a registered nurse do, architectural engineering versus architecture, what's the difference? And then we show them some Air Force technical training, recruiting type videos that are pretty short, but Air Force aerospace ground equipment, U.S. Air Force air traffic control, U.S. Air Force electronic principles, and finally, U.S. Air Force geospatial intelligence. And then the last one we show is Day in the Life at CIA.
Nice.
And that shows 5 different science, technology, engineering, math type jobs in the CIA.
So, in theory, these kids can come out to the Walker Aviation Museum and learn about STEM careers, and some of them technically have not one thing to do with an airplane or a wrench for that matter,
Right.
but it's STEM related stuff. So So certainly, if you've got an interest in military or aviation, there's plenty there for you. But you don't have to have any of that to gain some very valuable stuff there. So please, sign up your youth groups and things like that for this opportunity, because who knows, that this could be the thing that sparks these kids, where now they end up being an engineer or a doctor or an aircraft pilot or maintenance worker or something like that. So
Yeah.
it's pretty good, pretty cool. And I know all of those careers are pretty well paying, write your own ticket type jobs once you get the certifications and qualifications.
I'm glad you said that, because we give a little sheet of paper to the instructor or teacher that shows a lot of STEM jobs and their basic what the current salary is of these.
Mm-hmm.
And then we give all the kids a list of all the videos that they saw, plus a bunch of other STEM type videos. They can go home and watch on their YouTube themselves.
Mm-hmm.
And then we give them another sheet of paper that lists about 100 and some odd STEM careers that they can go home and look up that one and find it on YouTube. And then if they're interested in flying, we've got a list of 38 videos that are all the same company and stuff that does it. And it's professional pilot training. And it's about 12 hours long.
Wow.
So you go home and listen to that. You've got a big jump on what it's like to be through pilot training.
Yeah, you're well versed and ready to start training.
You probably know more than a lot of people. Yeah, right.
Good deal. Well, we're about out of time
Okay.
here. But please visit the Walker Air Force Base Museum's website. If you can you can get a bunch of great information there. www.wafbmuseum.org. There, you could, if you're interested in volunteering, or if you'd like to donate money to the museum, that's a great way to do all of that. And then, of course, just check out the flight schedule on AA.com. And when the planes are flying in and out of Roswell, that's when the museum's open. So come on down there in the air terminal. If you walk through the main entrance of the air terminal,
right,
it's right there on your right. Everything's right there. You can't miss it. So
about 30, 40 feet from the TSA check-in area.
Yeah.
So WFBmuseum.org, and you can see our newsletter and everything on there.
So come check it out. And like I said, reach out. You'll find contact information there if you'd like to volunteer or serve in various ways on the board or whatever you'd like to do. So Good deal. Well, as always, we appreciate the information, Robert. And I love hearing the old stories of the military stuff and things that may or may not sound dumb that happens in the military. It's like, why did they do it that way? Well, it made sense at the time.
That's right.
Well, thank you, sir.
Okay.
We'll see you next
Appreciate
time.
it. Thanks, Mike.
It is 7:54. Let's